Hello again. There was a time, 50 years or more ago, when having a black person or Indian move in next door to one was viewed as little short of a catastrophe. One remembers the television situation comedy Love Thy Neighbour in the 1970s, the humour of which hinged entirely around the scenario of a black man moving in next door. In the United States, of course, the film Guess Who's Coming to Dinner explored that other great fear that one's daughter picked up with a black man and wished to marry him. How have attitudes changed in Britain since those days? As far as mixed marriages and interracial relationships go, all the signs are that times have changed dramatically. As lately as 1983, between 50% and 60% of white people in Britain would have minded a lot or a little if a close relative married somebody of a different ethnic group. By 2013, fewer than 25% felt this way. I give a reference to this research in the description to this video. What about living next door to immigrants, though? One way, how has there been any change in attitudes towards that? One way of judging the matter is not by asking people outright, but by looking at their actions. One of the problems with questionnaires and opinion polls, of course, is that people lie a lot. This is why nobody really expected the referendum on membership of the European Union to yield the result which it did. All the opinion polls showed that probably it wouldn't result in a vote in that direction. That's because many people that were giving their opinions when asked knew that those in favour of so-called Brexit were seen in a negative way, and so they simply concealed their views and voting intentions. A better way of seeing how people feel about this or that phenomenon is to watch what they do rather than asking them what they intend to do. This is why observing what is known as white flight is interesting. Before moving to the Epping Forest district where I live now, I lived in Tottenham and I worked in Hackney at that time. These parts of London are famous for being full of black people, of course. What I found fascinating was that we had a small circle of white friends in Tottenham, all left-wing types, social workers and teachers and so on. Every one of them was tremendously keen on being nice to immigrants and loving the multicultural area and all the rest of it. Not one of those families still live in Tottenham now, any more than we do. Nobody said that they were moving out because they wanted to live among white people. All had very good explanations for moving, but somehow none of them moved to other vibrant and multi-ethnic areas. All of them, without exception, moved to largely or exclusively white suburbs or towns outside London, as indeed we did at about the same time. That is one clue to the way that even progressive and right-on people feel about living next door to too many immigrants and foreigners. They often buy properties in such areas when their children are very small or before they have children, because property tends to be cheap in places like Tottenham. Then, once their children reach the age when they're about to go to secondary school, the parents panic, and by that time they've made a few bob, they sell their house at a profit and move somewhere white. Here's another clue. I've always knocked around with black people and those from South Asia. The first person who looked after my daughter when she was a baby was a Jamaican woman who was the cousin of my best friend. Most white people, though, other than those who actually marry someone belonging to a visible minority, do not have any black friends or friends from the Indian subcontinent. They see black people at work, they know Indians professionally, perhaps their accountant is Indian, that sort of thing, but very, very few white people to whom I have spoken have ever sat down for a meal in a Muslim or Hindu home, or invited black people into their own home. This applies in general even to those who live in areas where the majority of people are black or Asian. This too seems to indicate how many white people truly feel about living next door to immigrants. Taken together, the two things I mention here suggest to me that many, perhaps most people, still feel the same way as white people did in the 1960s. That is to say, they would prefer to live next door to and be friends with other white people. I make no comment on this and do not say whether it is a good thing or bad, just that it does appear to me to be the case.